to the Make It Big podcast. I'm Shelly Kilpatrick, Manager of Content Marketing at BigCommerce. Today, we're going to be talking about technology and its place in retail e-commerce. It's predicted that by 2025, the online fashion retail sector could be responsible for almost $300 billion in sales, which just goes to show that the fashion industry and its online shoppers are extremely influential, which means brands need to keep up with what customers want or don't want from e-commerce technology so that they can meet their needs and create lifelong customers. To dive deeper into the fashion industry, we have an expert on growing trends and customer experiences in the retail space here with us today. Welcome, Nivara Xaykao, Culture and Consumer Insights Director at Fashion Snoops, a creative futures agency that's been forecasting trends around the world for 20 years. Nivara has tons of experience in trend forecasting and is going to bring some amazing insights and perspectives into this discussion of AI, UX, HX, and what reaching a tech tipping point means for online retail and its shoppers. Nivara, thank you for being on the Make It Big podcast.
Thank you, Shelly. I'm so excited to dive into these topics with you today.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got into this really cool industry.
Yeah, so I'm the Director of Culture and Consumer Insights right now at FS. We're a global trend forecasting company. The company's been around for about 20 years. I got my start studying textiles and apparel design at the University of Texas. Go Longhorns. I'm sure the team at BigCommerce, you're based in Austin, so we have this kinship right there. And then, of course, if you're working in fashion, you have to move to New York. So I got my start working on the design and product development side. And I always had in the back of my mind that I really wanted to get into trend forecasting. When I was in school, there was this article that Malcolm Gladwell wrote about I think it's called The Cool Hunt. He follows a trend forecaster that I think that works at Converse. And then another really formative text for me was the book Pattern Recognition by William Gibson. And so I was like, that's such a cool job. I think I'd be perfect for it. And luckily, I joined a company that was really growing at the time within that field called StyleSite. They're no longer around, but they're a fantastic company. Started working on the trend forecasting side on the apparel end. And now at Fashion Snoops, or FS for short, I cover more of these macro trends and what's going on in culture and across the consumer landscape, and just kind of uncovering those early indicators that allow companies across the entire product industry, from fashion to home to beauty, that kind of equip them with the intelligence to make decisions about the future.
Nice. Well, I made sure to wear my most fashionable shirt that I own because I knew we were going to be talking about fashion. I don't know.
Words are really, yeah. That's especially like in both the home space as well as the apparel space. So you're right on trend.
Yes, I got this from Ray, my friend at work, Carmen. She would appreciate this. I'm pretty sure she introduced me to the brand. So,
Raey, Ray. Is that it? No.
WRAY, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm familiar.
Yeah. The pants didn't fit, so I kept the top and I gave the pants to one of my good friends. So together we have a matching outfit. Okay, so aside from me and my fashion sense, which isn't that great, but I try. You talked about finding consumer and cultural insights. So what is your approach to that? I'm sure there's a lot of different approaches out there, but what is your personal approach to finding those insights?
I feel like, we live in this sort of online dominated culture where you can find out anything about anyone at any given time. But in a way, I feel like being out in the field and in person and just observing people in kind of their natural habitats almost has more meaning or impact now. So I love, again, my mind is always connecting the dots between just like the smallest or most specific instances of things I see and kind of what it could mean for, like, what the larger societal impacts could mean, or what it tells us about the world. So just my daily walks. I mean, I live in New York City, so it's always super inspiring place to be. A lot of activity going around. Um, anything can be inspiration for deeper insights or for trends. Online, of course, I do a lot of social listening. I have a very diverse team of strategists that they range in age. Some of them are on TikTok and are always reporting about like what's going on TikTok. I'm on Twitter a lot, or it's now called X, I guess. So I do a lot of social listening on X. Everybody is talking about the superconductor right now, and I actually wrote a report yesterday on the site about the superconductor. But it's not just the superconductor, this one specific thing. It's about, okay, if everybody's interested in the superconductor, the mainstream, especially the public, is really excited about this. They're excited about physics. It's like Oppenheimer has been doing really well, and this is about like a physicist, right? This is a story about a physicist. So if there's this sort of burgeoning interest in the mainstream about science, what does this tell us from a brand perspective? For one, brands can't, should respect their audiences, and they I think this shows that consumers are willing and able to consume like more complex and technical topics. So rather than speaking down to an audience or dumbing down content, you have to be aware that you're just respecting the audience's intelligence, playing to their curiosity. For one, people are so curious about how the world works, and not just taking things for face value. So I think, it's funny how these small instances can really lead to larger insights about the world we live in.
Oh man, that's fascinating. Especially I feel like in fashion with Oppenheimer and Barbie and all of that, and how it impacts fashion and how they're so different, but blending those trends and how that is going to influence fashion, and we could probably talk all about that. But what we're here for is to connect the fashion industry and the technology industry with e-commerce. And you wrote this great report, humanizing the digital commerce experience, and the human experience, HX. I remember that came up. That was like a new term that we kind of worked on together. What does that mean? And can you talk a little bit about the report and kind of what that covers?
Yeah, I think, whenever BigCommerce, whenever we started our partnership with you, and we talked about where, we could really bring fresh insights to this topic of digital commerce and UX. Again, like we really are always studying the consumer side, the consumer behavior side, their sentiments, their emotions, what they're going through, and how that could lead to the right product or creative strategies down the line. So I think in taking more of the stance of the human side was really important for us, because we're kind of on this cusp of AI right now, this age of AI, and about it, businesses and just average consumers, we all have access to these really powerful AI tools right now, and other technology tools. And if you think about it, if we all have access to these same tools, like what's really going to differentiate us and like provide value or a unique value proposition? And it's really that human side. AI doesn't work on its own. It requires creativity and human ingenuity to kind of figure out how we can extract value from AI, to give it instructions and things like that. So I think by centering this report on that human side, it's kind of a reminder that we can't lose perspective while all these really cool and exciting, flashy things are happening on the technology side. Um, I think also, COVID really drove this rift in this human connection, and it's something that we're still trying to repair. I think this is probably the first summer where I feel like things are somewhat approaching normal. It's never going to be normal, or we're never going to go back to how it was before. But I think, bridging that human connection, whether it's through digital means, in person, whatever, I think is becoming more and more important and something that people are just really starved for these days. And so that's why we kind of decided to ground a lot of the reporting in, um, the emotional side, in looking at how we can start from this place of examining what's important to people right now, what their values are, and then figuring out how we can almost reverse engineer and use like different features and platforms and these technological tools, um, to kind of answer those needs or values.
So really it's starting with the person at the end and really thinking of them as a fully formed person and human and capturing their emotions. I feel like sometimes that gets like a little bit left out of the equation of emotions, and like as a, content marketer and storyteller, we know that like the emotional side is so important and you can't like leave that out. So I think bringing the human in and capturing the emotional side is super important. And
Yeah, I think also that term user, and user experience, kinda conveys something transactional, like a transactional relationship. Someone's getting both sides are getting something out of it, but I think in kind of using this verbiage of HX or human experience instead, kinda makes it more universal and kinda puts us all, on the same playing field almost. It's not transactional, it's like a dialogue or a relationship.
I love that relationship. I feel like that's definitely what I would prefer as a consumer with, brands, to think about like what do I want to see, what's working for me, how can you design for me and who I am and my interests. And I think there's so much opportunity to do more of that, and especially in like web design where it's more focused on the person at the end and not so much just transaction convert. Because at the end of the day, like everybody can have a website, everybody can do SEO. It's, you can get found, but it's like you have to have some kind of connection. You have to have something to make you stand out. Otherwise, how do you get people to be loyal to your brand? Because at the end of the day, somebody who's, loyal will come back over and over again and like share with their friends and their family and like, oh, this brand really gets me. This company makes something different and unique that really speaks to me. I think you would like this. Um, if it's just transactional, you don't really get that. I think that's, to me, something with like a bigger Amazon is it's definitely feels a little bit more transactional compared to like a direct to consumer website or something like that, where I'm, going on Amazon to find the product that I'm looking for at like the cheapest price, but I'm not really looking at the brand I'm buying it from, which is fine because sometimes, you want that. But then other times, maybe especially with like fashion and home, it's such a personal thing, like to my taste, to how I want to show myself to the world, that it's like I want to show a brand that I'm like, oh, they have strong ethics that are the same as mine. They have the same style and oh, I can relate to their models. They look like me, things like that.
Yeah, I think, platforms like BigCommerce have been so instrumental in creating this real, in raising the standards of e-commerce, and but, like, really also creating this kind of baseline infrastructure for, online selling. Um, but, like, after that, in kind of building from this infrastructure you've provided, it's retailers and merchants have to think about like, how do I create this standout experience though, like flesh out this infrastructure, and really create this unique experience that is memorable, that brings customers back. And it's really that human ingenuity side, that creative thinking, uh, or also like creating an interface that really speaks to the human side of people, that I think can really differentiate retailers.
So, going back to kind of like the AI conversation, how would you recommend that brands leverage AI? What are some good examples of the ways to do it? And then what are some maybe examples of the ways they shouldn't be thinking about it?
Yeah, I think we're living through such an exciting time, and the thing is, like, while AI has kind of entered the zeitgeist on a, the mainstream on a mainstream level, I think retailers have been harnessing, AI for a while on the back end in terms of, powering, user recommendations and things like that. So I think, while there are all these developments with, large language models that, they're getting larger again, like, more sophisticated, able to detect nuances and things like that. So that's really exciting. I think I'm a big proponent of leading with the purpose or the function rather than the technology. So in a way, it's like even just like with these recommendation systems or any of these personalization features that you know um, websites offer. I don't necessarily think they need to say powered by AI or anything that again because that kind of eliminates that human side or that personal touch. So leading more with like, what can this tool or this cool feature do for you? Not so much like, oh, check out, this cool like conversational chatbot where that's like where there's nobody on the back end. It's I think leading with again the need, the function rather than whatever that technology may be that's fueling it. In retail, yeah, in our webinar with BigCommerce that we did last week, we talked a lot about that hyper personalization angle and how AI can be so instrumental to that. But again, you have to kind of pair that with a more personal touch or a human touch. So in terms of like how you communicate those recommendations, it's key as well. And I think what we're seeing with AI is people kind of using it to provide more personalized responses and things like that, creating this feeling of empathy, um, like speaking to someone like a human. I think that there's ways that you can scale that. I hate to say it, but there are ways that you can kind of scale that using AI. Another thing that we're seeing with a lot of these generative tools is that they're becoming really invaluable for asset creation. So, like our team has been tracking a lot, like kind of the conversion rates of like if you have the presence of even just having a 360-degree um, image of a product, what that does for conversion rates, even having like videos of a product. People are, I think, trusting like static images, still images less and less, especially perfectly airbrushed product images and things like that. This is why, like, a reason why social commerce has really taken off in places like China is that people like to see like a product live. They want to see how it moves. I think it's really important, in digital commerce to be able to provide some facsimile of like what a physical experience might be. So any ways that you can kind of create this like more immersive product experience that really conveys um, how a product looks, feels, moves, and all that. I think video is really instrumental there. And like it's kind of scary, but there are a number of generative AI tools that help you kind of automate that video creation process as well. Of course, ChatGPT and just the more of this conversational chatbot as well. I've I've been on the other side of like writing out scripts and things that feed into like sort of like those old school chatbots. And they're not very dynamic. They're very like binary. It's really hard to update them. Their logic is just very static and linear. And so, with something like ChatGPT, as the longer you converse with it, the more it kind of builds up this intelligence about, it builds on your previous answers and builds up more of this understanding of exactly what you want or looking for. Um, and I saw something the other day about how um, one day customers will log on to like an e-commerce site or any kind of website, and they'll be able to, it'll be run more of it on a declarative interface where you can just punch in exactly what you want and it'll serve it up for you. There's a quote in the white paper that we put together with BigCommerce about how in almost this next version of the internet, the right products and services and content are going to find you instead of you searching for it. It'll just come and find you. And so I think, we're just getting a small glimpse into the future of AI in retail right now. But I don't know, that landscape is changing and developing so fast. It's kind of scary, but if you keep with it, I think more of these use cases and applications are going to emerge.
Oh, I kind of feel like that already. The stuff is finding you. I feel like that's what, like, TikTok made me buy it, and ads that you get on Instagram, and just things like that. I think Google search has, come such a long way, and results that it gives you, and like asking questions and getting answers, and the more you click on, the more it gives you relevant. It knows what you're thinking. So I can definitely see generative AI kind of like blowing that out of the water and like taking it to the next step.
I actually, on that note, like I feel like humans and people always find a way to correct or counter things that are happening. And one thing we're seeing with Gen Z is they're kind of fighting back against these really rigorous algorithms. It's almost this existential moment where you're kind of like, oh wait, are my tastes and preferences shaped by the feed or this algorithm I get from TikTok or whatever? Or you kind of almost wonder what you're missing out on by like having this super personalized and responsive algorithm developed specifically for you. And so I actually think, while all those tools are going to be really important and they're scalable and things, still kind of going back to that human element, I think providing these moments of surprise and opportunities for freeform discovery on the consumer side is actually going to be really important going forward, just to kind of counteract, this more automated feel of AI.
How would you say a brand could do that? What are maybe some examples?
I would say, what was it, like a year ago when people were really getting excited about Be Real? Well, nobody, like Be Real is not exactly like on, top of mind for anything right now, but I think the intent behind Be Real and sort of almost engineering these spontaneous moments or allowing room for these spontaneous moments was, I think they were really trying to fill an important need that people had at the moment. And I think that need still exists, as like these moments of spontaneity. So you almost have to use technology to kind of engineer those moments. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like, okay, so another thing in terms of like going back to these AI visualization tools, just providing, like this canvas for people to visualize their own spaces and maybe like I think on sort of these social media platforms, I think they've provided, like, for example, Instagram provides different feeds. There's the one that's like kind of like the TikTok model of the For You page, but then you can also maybe have the option to sort by like chronologically or by just people you follow and things like that. So I think providing those different options for kind of like the content that you see served up. I think also in kind of perusing like the various e-commerce websites that BigCommerce provides a home for. I think this idea of like curation, not curation by like an actual human being, I think that's another great way that consumers can maybe find something that they weren't exactly searching for, but it's been kind of vetted and edited by an expert. And so I think that's another great way for someone to stumble onto something that they may have they maybe weren't looking for or didn't know that they liked. So I've found a lot of things kind of outside of my wheelhouse by looking through more of these like expert curated collections and things like that.
Nice. Oh, I love that. I like that you talk about BigCommerce merchants using technology. I think Burrow was a great example, of a BigCommerce merchant that kind of lets you put the furniture in your home, and you can use like AR, VR technology to like see how that looks in your home. I know a lot of, big fashion sites are like, I think it's like Old Navy and like Walmart have a lot of cool new technology to see how things like look on your body and what do you look like, and being able to put that in to be more personalized and catered to you. Those are some really cool applications that I can just think of as a consumer.
Hmm. Yeah, virtual try-on, where that's another interesting kind of use case I've seen for AI. I think it's Levi's that is, they're partnering with this AI company. They do AI models, and so rather than, photographing every item on like every type of model possible, like representing every like shape, size, whatever. They're creating these AI models. The idea of it seems a little bit dystopian, but also like, people want to be able to see themselves in the products that they consume. So I think that's one way to kind of scale that whole workflow. Um, and to answer that need, short of, someone uploading a picture of themselves and somehow having piece of clothing or whatever somehow shape around their body. I mean, that technology exists, but it's still a little bit tedious and inaccurate right now.
Well, hopefully we get there because that would be really cool. Hopefully we get there in the future. Um, so what about like kind of the ethics of AI? Like, I think that's a really interesting topic to dig into, and personally, curious, especially when you say, okay, they're using AI to represent people in place of like models showing off clothing. Um, when, even talking about, oh, using AI to create a 360 product view. So, what are kind of like I guess, like the dark side of that, in the way that like you're kind of taking those jobs from people, like that, talking about humanizing the experience, but you know humans create that content, humans kind of are the models, and now it's an
Mhm.
AI, it's a person, a video, somebody who does video for a living creating this video, it's the creatives in the industry, and it's AI. So how do you kind of like balance the human side of that with the fact that, yeah, it's not humans, it's kind of taking that
Yeah.
away.
I think the legalities and, restrictions around the use of AI are, like, I think because it's moving so fast, it's been really hard for like regulating bodies to keep up with it. So it's something that we're tracking right now. I think what I've recommended for our clients and how they use AI right now is to use it more on the back end. Use it to as maybe like for example, on the design side, it you can use something like, a generative, like a text to image generator or whatever to, for example, automate a bunch of like variations so that you don't have to like design and sketch every or render everyone yourself. Naturally, whenever, for example, we're designing, whether it's designing a collection or a marketing campaign and all that, usually start with a mood board or a vision board or something like that. And in a way, these tools, these like where you just put in a prompt can kind of help you with that synthesis. And almost kind of it gives you almost like this advanced starting point so that you can be more creative. Um, just using it even on the UX side to like test um your maybe to test like maybe a prototype you're thinking of for like the like a website experience. There are some AI tools right now that can help you kind of do some quick A/B testing, even putting together like the prototypes and things like that. So like I recommend right now just kind of using it on more of the back end. In terms of like models and AI maybe taking jobs later on down the line. Um, I think those are all really valid concerns. We're seeing a lot of it play out with the actors strike, the writers strike right now. Um, that we're sort of like, I think attribution and provenance and things like that are a really big issue that we're going to have to grapple with. But I think my utopian vision of it is that AI is almost like a smarter assistant that you can have. It has this endless capacity to like hold and process a lot of information. Um, crunching numbers, pulling together like very disparate sources of data, uniting it, making some kind of sense out of that stuff. So in a way, kind of sort of like it eliminates a lot of that computational, like tedious computational activities that sometimes humans have to undertake. And my hope is that it'll free us to be more creative, to be more strategic. I almost feel like, I mean, again, in this perfect world, that it'll sort of push us, like push humans to kind of reach further, go deeper. Um, but we'll have yet to see how that'll play out.
I, I like to think, everybody's always saying like, "Oh, I wish I could clone myself. I wish I could clone myself to get like more done," because you sometimes get stuck doing the more menial manual things of your job that you're like, "Oh, I wish I could just clone myself so that I could have somebody else do that." It's kind of like you can use the AI to do that. The stuff that you're like, like you said, getting started. Staring at a blank, as a writer, staring at a blank piece of
Yeah.
paper, like how can I use the AI to like do the boring manual, the boring stuff so that I can get to like the more interesting things. And it's like, oh, I don't have to clone myself. I can like start leveraging this tools as a technology to really like help me be better so that I can focus on like the things that are interesting to me and that I really want to work on.
Like that's a good point. And I attended a design conference last month, and someone said that like if anything, it can help you get past that blank page syndrome. Like just again synthesizing, like maybe if you have like I don't know, say well like let's just take this Barbenheimer thing. They're able to synthesize those two influences into like all these like image assets and stuff. You can at least use that as a starting point to be like, okay, let me build on that, or I hate that. I'm gonna go in a completely different direction.
Nice. I love that. I think we've got a little deep into AI. I'm a little curious about something else, kind of from the report is um, talking about hyper physical experiences. Um, I just saw that in here and I'm just like, oh, that's really interesting. I'm curious, what does that mean? Because I know, you said like getting back, well, the new normal, I guess, that we're in. I hate to say that, like, post pandemic of, you know, people wanting to experience things physically. Like I know you described, seeing things 360, hyper physical. To me, I guess I'm just curious what that means. And um, yeah.
Yeah. So we mentioned it a little bit in the report. Definitely encourage you to dive a little bit more into it. Earlier this year, my team at FS, we released a report called "The Future of Retail," and the really interesting about that, as we were doing research and all that for the report, is that we were the most excited about what was happening in brick and mortar stores, and I think there are a couple stats in the guide about how traffic in physical stores is picking up while online sales have sort of leveled off a little bit from their pandemic highs. But we were getting really excited about a lot of developments happening there. I think because I think physical stores have really been struggling lately, and so they're really the side of the retail ecosystem that has really had to like adapt, change, and to innovate. So there's a lot of, I think that's why there's so many exciting things actually happening there. So in that report, we uncovered a couple different trends, mostly having to do with on the brick and mortar level, but I feel like they're so applicable and relevant to digital retail as well, and hyper physical is one of them. We're just in this return to in person and stuff, just stores really playing to the senses, whether that's like touch, sound, smells, things like that. So I think that this will be really key for digital experience to somehow recreate that feeling of tactility. We have like screens that we have to get through. So I think the ability to kind of portray, um, dimensionality, touch. This is kind of far, far in the future. One example I keep on thinking about is there was like a textile, like I forget what textile company that came up with this like great use of haptics on like a touch screen where you can kind of like there's like pretend there's like a fabric swatch on the touch screen, and you could like run your hands across like the fabric swatch, and through haptics it kind of shows you like through like that like resistance and what you get from haptics, just like the feeling of the fabric and things like that. That's a pretty extreme case, but kind of taking a step back a little bit and being like just paying more attention to like not just on the product side, but like the whole experience, how you can convey more of that sensory aspect. I think those things can really kind of, again, cut through the noise and create really memorable experiences.
Oh, I love that. I feel like too that would be like, going back to the human experience is, using more than just like a couple of senses that we use while shopping online, but how can you use things like sound and just more, things that you would experience in a physical location. I think that's really cool. And I think, yeah, it is interesting with the physical. I think too, it's like, how do you create like a connected experience to where if you're shopping online, it doesn't feel so distant from shopping in the store. And if you're shopping in the store, you can still like pick that up online and it's kind of all one, and you want to go into the store or you want to shop online. You just feel like you have that relationship with the brand. So like however you're interacting with them is kind of like how we interact with each other, where, sometimes we're on a screen like we are now, or sometimes we're in person having a conversation and doing something together.
Yeah, I think also thinking about those ways that digital is unique, the unique features it offers up, and really leaning into those things. Because yes, like, in physical stores, you get to touch, smell, taste things and all that. But like one really great thing about one really real benefit that digital has is like this ability to interact with things right away. Like for example, like offering feedback and the fact that we're all equipped with the ability to kind of like gauge some of that like feedback as well, I think is a really powerful benefit of digital. So providing those like engagement points and or really like playing that up, I feel like yeah, there's so much power in that and like so many opportunities there.
Oh, I love that. I love the idea of bringing like the reviews. I mean, as a
Mhm.
shopper, always look at reviews. So I think that would be a great way to connect the physical and online of, okay, you're in the store, you're looking at something and you're like, well, I don't know, especially like a big purchase, like a piece of furniture where you're like, I don't know, I like it, I'm sitting on it, but how does it hold up over time? What are those reviews? What are other people saying about this? How quickly can I get it delivered? I feel like that's another one is you can kind of like, okay, if I order this online, I can get it delivered in X number of days, or like, oh, it's definitely in stock. So you can kind of like find out all of those things while you're in the store shopping and create like a good experience to connect that with different like QR codes and things like that, or you can make it really simple for people to be like, okay, I'm really interested in this, but now I want to know more information, so I can get that right now. And then that gives them closer to like the point of purchase, where it's like, okay, I can quickly make that decision and I don't have to, I can do that now because you've given me all of this information, and I can, get all the points of information I need to make a decision.
Yeah, I think finding those, like, points of connection, weirdly, whenever I'm shopping online or whatever, if I've been in front of a screen all day, sometimes I'll go into a store and, like, be like, "I wish there was, like, pop-ups or something where I can learn more about this," like you were saying, this piece of furniture. I think there's so many ways that you can kinda connect those dots and play and, like, pull from, like, both sides, both traditional brick and mortar retail and, online shopping to kinda create the best experience and, like, a very full and dynamic experience for the customer.
Well, I think we are getting close to time. So one last question. What else are you predicting for the future of online retail?
I think sustainability is just gonna really drive so much of the future of everything. We have, limited resources, whether that's energy or material things, so I know sustainability is a really big concern, that's starting to infiltrate even, like, UX design. Obviously, it's been a big priority on the product end, so it's and I think sustainability also can go hand in hand in with just providing a more optimal experience for or optimal digital experience for the shopper as well. While all these different technologies and features are super cool and all that, I think being able to think critically about like what's really necessary and what really drives sort of the bottom line or moves the needle is going to be key. So prioritizing, features and assets and all that. So, especially if as like retail like, is expanding into so many channels and platforms and things like that, I think erring on the erring on the side of simplicity is always good. So again, just being a lot more thoughtful about the features that you put out from a usability angle as well as with an eye towards sustainability or more energy efficient design.
Oh, I love that you talk about sustainability. I know I said last question, but we definitely have seen that come up a lot. We did some research last year where we kind of asked consumers about certain things, and brand values and sustainability was one. And we found, a high percentage said that sustainability is at least somewhat important when making a purchasing decision. Gen Z, of course, skewed much higher than, like, say, baby boomers. But we found that, yeah, sustainability is huge. And I've definitely been seeing a lot more of that just like in, stuff I've been reading, that it's kind of come up as, you know, almost like a, table stakes now, is you
Mhm.
have to have some kind of either sustainability initiative or convey that. It needs to be kind of like front and center in whatever you're doing. And I like that you're talking about sustainability and in the, bringing that more than just in your products. How can brands kind of bring that into other areas
Mhm.
besides just their products?
Yeah, yeah, and I think on, kind of like taking my us out of the more technical stuff side of sustainability, the ability to or being from the content and being able to convey that story too in a way that's effective, clear, transparent. Um, I've seen a couple of great examples of that throughout some of the big commerce merchants, just being to effectively tell their sustainability story in a way that is authentic and, just rings very true, I think is really big priority.
Nice. One of my favorite BigCommerce merchant examples is Skull Candy. They do really cool like headphones. They have so many like collabs with like celebrities and stuff, and they have a recycling program. And I think that's like a really cool way that they can get people to care about, recycling electronics, which is a big deal because you can't, just always throw things away. So I was educated about just that in general. So I think it's kind of cool that brands are kind of educating through their products and their brands on sustainability and how people can be more sustainable and interact with brands in that way. And I love that idea.
Same.
Okay, so we're nearing the end of the episode for real this time, but there's so much more to discover about all of this. Where should our listeners learn more about the work you're doing and FS?
Well, our website is fashionsnoops.com. Also find us on all the, major social channels. We have a great LinkedIn page, as well as our Instagram community is pretty lively. And also check out the report. It's on the BigCommerce website as well. I think there's so many great information that came out of our partnership with you and the dialogue that we had with you, and us, kind of bring our expertise in certain areas, and BigCommerce bring their expertise in in other areas. I think it made for a really powerful, very future forward and insightful report. So check that out. It's called HX, Humanizing the Digital Commerce Experience.
Yes, I love it. We'll make sure to put it in the show notes so people can link right to it and go read it. It's really great, really comprehensive. I think it was a great collaboration. So, okay, that is all the time we have today. Thank you so much, Nivara, for joining us. It was great having this conversation with you. We are so glad you could help our audience understand the importance of the human experience in this hyper digital world. And to our listeners, thank you for spending your time with us on the Make It Big podcast. We will see you next time.